What if I told you that the most expensive piece of gear in your ice sled is often the reason you go home empty-handed? It sounds crazy, right? But today we're talking about why your fish finder, your trusted electronic eyes, often fails you in the dead of winter. I'm going to show you the simple biological reason why what you see on the screen isn't the whole story. It's a mistake that 90% of anglers make, and it has nothing to do with your settings or transducer angles. So let me ask you, have you ever marked a screen full of fish only to sit there for an hour without a single bite? Let me know down in the comments. For years, the thinking has been simple. If the sonar shows fish, you stay put and you catch fish. We've all bought into it. We spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on these amazing pieces of technology. They promise to take all the guesswork out of fishing, and in the summer they often deliver. But winter is a completely different beast. The rules change. The old-timers who relied on instinct and reading the ice might have been onto something. We've become so reliant on watching that screen that we've forgotten how to actually hunt for fish. Understanding why that screen can mislead you is the key to saving hours of frustration and actually putting more fish on the ice. First, let's get into the cold, hard truth about fish metabolism. Fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature matches the water around them. When that water temperature drops to, say, 34 degrees, their entire system slows to a crawl. Their heart rate plummets. Their digestion practically stops. They enter a state of conservation, burning the absolute minimum amount of energy required to stay alive. They aren't actively hunting for a big meal. They are simply surviving, waiting for the spring thaw. This single biological fact is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So here's our next point. When marking fish means nothing, your fish finder is a sound machine. It sends a pulse down, it hits an object, and the pulse bounces back. It's not magic. It doesn't know if the fish is hungry, sleeping, or just bored. All it knows is that something with a different density than water is down there. Seeing a mark on your screen in winter is like seeing a car in a parking lot. The car is there, yes, but that doesn't tell you if the driver is inside, if the engine is running, or if it's about to go anywhere. That mark is just proof of life, not proof of activity. This leads us to what I call the suspended animation state. Many of the fish you mark are practically dormant. Imagine a black bear hibernating, but underwater. They find a spot, often near the bottom, and they just hang there. They aren't moving. They aren't feeding. Their entire world shrinks to a few cubic inches around their face. They are so lethargic that they might not even register a threat or an opportunity. You could drop the most perfect appetizing lure right on their nose, and they literally might not have the energy or metabolic drive to open their mouth. And that's precisely why your lure is basically invisible to them. An active fish in the summer might see your lure from 10 feet away and race over to smash it. That fish has a massive strike zone. But a lethargic winter fish? Its strike zone might be the size of a coffee cup. You have to put your lure directly in its face and keep it there. Even then, the chances of a reaction are slim, so when you see a screen full of marks and you're jigging away, you're likely presenting your bait to fish that are physically and mentally incapable of eating it. You're trying to feed a sleeping man. Now let's talk about what the sonar is actually reading. The number one thing that returns a sonar signal in a fish is its swim bladder. This is a gas-filled sac that helps the fish control its buoyancy. For a sonar unit, a bag of air surrounded by flesh and water is the perfect target. It's a beautiful, bright, and clear signal. That's what your high-dollar machine is designed to pick up. But a swim bladder doesn't tell you anything about the fish's mood. A lethargic perch has the same swim bladder as an aggressive one. The sonar can't tell the difference, and that's the trap. This is also why a big mark can be a small, inactive fish. The size of the mark on your screen depends on many things. The density of the object, how long it stays in the sonar cone, and its angle to the transducer. A small fish sitting perfectly still, directly under the transducer, can return a thick, bright, promising red line that makes you think you've found a monster. In reality, it could be a 6-inch perch that hasn't moved in 3 hours. Don't let the size of the mark fool you. In winter, it's one of the most unreliable indicators. Let's move on to the problem with arch interpretation in winter. On open water, we're all taught to look for those beautiful, perfect arches. An arch is created when a fish moves through your sonar cone. It's a sign of movement, and movement often means activity. But in winter, when you're stationary, sitting over a hole, you rarely see arches. Instead, you see flat horizontal lines. Anglers see these lines and think, great, fish are here. But they are misinterpreting what that flat line really means in a winter context. Those flat lines are the ghosts on your screen. A solid, unchanging horizontal line means one thing. A fish is sitting completely motionless below you. It's not cruising, it's not investigating. It is suspended in the water column, or hugging the bottom, burning zero energy. This is the classic signature of a negative or neutral fish. Seeing a screen painted with these flat lines isn't a sign that the bite is about to turn on. It's usually a sign that you've found the local fish dormitory and everyone inside is asleep. They are there, but they are not catchable. Let me give you a simple analogy. Think of it like this, the sleeping dog analogy. You have a dog that's fast asleep on the floor. You can dangle his favorite toy in front of his face. You can even wave a juicy piece of steak under his nose. He might twitch an ear, but he's not getting up. He's not going to chase the toy or eat the steak until he's ready to wake up on his own terms. Those inactive fish on your sonar are that sleeping dog. You can show them the most irresistible jig in your box, but they simply will not react until their mood changes. Now, let's touch on your sonar's cone angle deception. Most transducers have a cone angle, like an invisible ice cream cone of sound shooting down from your hole. If you're in 20 feet of water, that cone can be 8 to 10 feet wide at the bottom. Your flasher or graph will show you any fish that enters that cone, but your jig is only in one tiny spot within that cone, so the screen can show 3 fish, making you think you're in the middle of a school, when in reality, those fish could be 5 feet to your left or right, well outside their tiny strike zone. This leads to the biggest mistake of all, staring at the screen instead of drilling more holes. This is the psychological trap. You see a mark, and your brain gets a hit of dopamine. Hope. You think, he's gonna bite any second now. So you wait, and you wait. You change lures, you change jigging cadence. But the flat line on the screen never moves. Meanwhile, the active feeding school of fish might be just 30 feet away, in a spot you haven't checked yet, because you've been hypnotized by an uncatchable fish on your screen. So, what does an active fish look like on winter sonar? It's subtle. Instead of a flat dead line, you're looking for signs of life. You'll see the mark slowly rise off the bottom to investigate your lure. It might not be a fast, aggressive streak like in summer. It might just be a slow, deliberate lift of a few feet. You might also see the line jitter, or slightly pulse, showing the fish is moving its fins. These are the telltale signs. You're looking for curiosity. A flat line is indifference. A rising line is interest. That's the fish you can catch. This debunks the reaction strike myth in cold water. In warmer water, you can often trigger a bite from a neutral fish by ripping a lure past its face, forcing an instinctual reaction. In the dead of winter, this rarely works. A lethargic fish with a slow metabolism isn't going to waste precious energy chasing something erratic. In fact, a super aggressive presentation is more likely to spook these fish than entice them. Slow, subtle movements and long pauses are the key. You're not trying to trigger a reaction, you're trying to present an impossibly easy meal. So with all this said, when is the fish finder useful? Am I telling you to leave it at home? Absolutely not. Its role just changes. In winter, your fish finder is not a fish catching tool, it is a spot finding tool. Its primary job is to help you map the bottom. You should be using it to find structure, to identify depth changes, to locate weed edges, and to determine bottom composition. It's for finding the places where active fish are likely to be, not for staring at the fish themselves. Think of it this way. You are finding the buffet, not the diners. Fish, even when they're inactive, will relate to structure. They'll sit along drop-offs, they'll suspend over basins, or they'll tuck into the edge of a weed bed. Use your electronics in search mode. Drill a series of holes and quickly check the depth and for any sign of structure. You are building a mental map of the bottom. Once you find a promising looking spot, A sharp break, a sunken rock pile. That's when you slow down and start to fish. Let's highlight the critical difference between summer and winter sonar use. In summer, you can often troll or drift, and when you mark a big school of fish, you can circle back and catch them because they're typically active and feeding. In winter, that strategy is a recipe for failure. You're stationary. The fish are stationary. You can't treat a winter mark the same way. A winter mark is just a clue, not a confirmation. The real confirmation is a bite and nothing else. Now let's debunk a common setting myth. A lot of anglers think if they're not seeing fish, they should crank up the gain or sensitivity. All this does is add more clutter to the screen. It doesn't magically make fish appear or make them more active. In fact, running your gain too high can make it harder to spot those subtle signs of an active fish. You want a clean, crisp signal. You want to be able to clearly see your lure and the fish's reaction to it. More is not always better. We have to talk about the psychological trap of the screen. Your fish finder provides constant feedback and it can be addictive. It feels like you're in the game, even when you're not. That blinking light or colorful screen gives you a false sense of hope that keeps you pinned to a dead spot. The best ice anglers I know use their electronics for a quick look, and if they don't see the right signs or get a bite in a few minutes, they move. They trust their gut more than the screen. Let me give you a real-world example from the ice. Just last week, I was on a lake known for perch. I found a guy who had been sitting on the same hole for 2 hours. His screen, he told me, was loaded. I looked, and sure enough, there were 5 or 6 of those dead flat lines. He hadn't had a single bite. I drilled a line of holes about 50 feet away, toward the tip of a point. The third hole had no marks on the screen at all. But on the first drop, I got a bite. I had found the small active group. He was fishing the dormitory. I was fishing the cafeteria. So this all boils down to a new rule of thumb. Trust the sonar for where, not for if. Use it to answer the question, where is the interesting structure and what is the depth? Then use your rod and your instincts to answer the question, are there any active fish here? If you drop your line and you don't get a bite or see a fish rise to investigate within 5 to 10 minutes, it's time to move. It doesn't matter if your screen looks like an aquarium. The fish you see are not the fish you'll catch. So, let's wrap this up. The big takeaway here is not that your fish finder is useless. It's that the way most of us use it in the winter is completely wrong. It's not lying to you, but it's telling a very specific truth. It shows you where fish are, not if they are willing to eat. The real aha moment, the thing that will change your fishing, is realizing that 90% of the fish you mark on that screen are functionally just underwater decorations. They are in a deep energy-saving mode. Your job is no longer to find any fish. Your new job is to find the active 10%, and this changes everything. You'll stop wasting hours on dead holes. You will drill more, you will move more, and you will start trusting your angler's instinct again. You'll use your expensive technology as a map, not as a crystal ball. Thank you so much for watching. If this helped clear things up, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks down the myths of fishing. Now, for the real talk, what's the longest you've ever waited on a promising mark before finally giving up? Let's share some war stories in the comments below.